Welcome to the Learner's Session. We have a beginning of every one of these Hatecast. This is your host, Bryce Allen, and I've tried to record this thing a couple different times. But it's kind of hard to introduce an interview with an individual who doesn't really need an introduction. So today, as you can tell by the title above this video, or somewhere I have it in here, I'm joined by Jim Brakewood. He tells his story in this podcast. He also is, in other podcasts. He's kind of all over the place. Super, super nice guy. Very, very fortunate to be working with him. Also, he wants to come on for future episodes as well to talk about diet, nutrition, training, and anything else that really tickles his fancy at that moment. So, if you guys are receptive to that, please let us know in the comment section below. We're looking for feedback. So, please give it to us. It's how we make improvements. With that being said, like I said, guy doesn't really need an introduction. I will say, however, if you are not following him on Instagram, please do so. Ultra nice dude, ultra cool dude, and it really has been a pleasure talking with him. So, over to the business side of Chaos and Pain, because this is the part where I tell you about what's going on over at www.chaosandpain.com. We just launched, it's been around for a week, two, I think, just launched a rewards program. Now, our rewards program is geared literally towards the people who already buy our products, right? They already know they're going to spend some money over at www.chaosandpain.com, right? They will eventually get rewarded with free cash value or basically cash in the store. So if you order from our website, you get the balance as something that you can use on the site from the rewards program. For every $10, I think it's $1. I explained it in the last Hatecast much better than I'm doing right now. But trust me, guys, for those of you who already order from us, it is a spectacular thing that we're trying to do, and we're trying to give you guys chances to get free product and all that jazz. And there's probably, I can confirm, there is something more coming, although I can't personally say because I am under a non-disclosure agreement. So, just be aware that if you are interested in free stuff, check back on our website all the time. Also, make sure to be signed up to our newsletter. That is the one place where a bunch of this large giveaway stuff that we're doing will be going. So, like I said, I can't say much, but please, I'm begging you, if you're a fan of Chaos and Pain, sign up to our newsletter. It needs to happen. Plus, you can know about the sales before I say them on this podcast, so you have more of a chance to kind of get things in order if you're going to make an order, or plan ahead or just jump the gun sooner. So because stock sometimes is an issue for a small supplement company like we are. Also with all of that, right? Fearox is on, and I did not cheat. I did not have my email open up in the background, and that's why the white balance is off for a little bit. So anyway, Fearox EU is on BOGO. Buy one Fearox EU, get another one absolutely $0, right? And we also have a 30% off code to go with that. So that means you can use the BOGO, right? So make sure to add another one into your cart, and it should zero out once it's in your cart, okay? Then you can add our 30% off code on top of that and get 30% off. I mean, when we have, for example, right, when we have BOGOs, this is what I keep telling people. This is what's amazing, right? When we have BOGOs on our pre-workouts, for example, Fearox is normally $39.99, right? Minus, let's just say you use a 20% off code, like one of our mini 20% off codes, you take it down to $31.99, right? Then on top of that, you have a BOGO. That makes a serving of our pre-workout under 70 cents a serving. You cannot even buy coffee for that. Anyway, I'm done gushing over products. And by the way, thank you again to Jim for joining me and taking time out of his day and away from his dogs to come join me and have this conversation. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Hatecast, and today I am joined by a very special guest. I'm not going to do his introduction. He's going to do it for me. So, Jim, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, okay. I wasn't prepared. All right. My name is Jim Brakewood. I have been a sponsored athlete for Chaos and Pain for, a number of years now. Maybe up to like 3 or 4 now. And, so I'm 35. I'm a dog handler over at the Underdog Alliance in California. Basically what we do is we take all the euthanasia aggressive style dogs and we try and rehab them and try and find them homes. I'm a combat veteran, did a couple tours in Iraq, including the initial invasion. The second tour, I was shot in the head, so I've got a Purple Heart. That seems to be more of the attention-grabbing thing about my life story. And, I guess that's about it.
Okay. So, I had listened to you on another podcast, which, by the way, guys, if you have not listened to the other podcast that Jim was involved in, I believe that was the Man podcast?
The Men podcast, yeah.
The Men podcast, okay.
It's no longer functioning, but I believe my episode is out there along a number of them are still. Yeah,
your episode's still up. I know they had 2-3 episodes with you in there, so if you guys are interested in more Jim, he'll, of course, be hopefully joining me on this channel, and you can listen to the Men's podcast. But enough of that. So let's go back before you actually enlisted, because I think people don't know this about vets, but they had lives beforehand.
Yeah.
So what were you like as a kid?
A lot like I am now, just chubbier and more annoying.
Oh, okay.
I guess I don't know if I've changed too much in terms of my personality, in terms of how I am. But pre-military, I guess I was more of the class clown, I guess you would call myself in high school. I played a little bit of high school football, but I was a little more of an outcast. But my father served. He was in the Navy. My grandfather served. And my cousin actually went to West Point. And when I was growing up, I really kind of looked up to him. And so when he went to West Point, that was a major drive for me to join as well. And he ended up being a Signal Corps, if I remember correctly. But I remember being in high school and I read every Ranger book and Airborne and Special Forces. So I decided to go the Airborne Infantry route out of the 82nd.
Yeah. We have that in common. My dad was actually in the Navy. And part of my entire family is actually enlisted. So I have my father.
Well, thank them all for my service. Thank them all for the service, please. You
know what? That still makes my dad feel weird.
It's a weird thing to say. Like I when people say it to me, I'm like, you're welcome, I guess. I feel like a jerk saying you're welcome, like I did you a favor or something. I don't know. I just served. You're welcome, I guess. I totally understand where your dad's coming from.
Well, my dad also enlisted because he's 60. So he joined up around the time he was 18. He did his 4 years and decided that, because me and him are a lot alike. We actually we've come to the decision that we beat to our own drum. Mm-hmm. So we don't really bode well with doing the same thing for too long. I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but he actually ended up doing his 4 years and getting out. But what
was his job in the Navy? Do you remember?
Oh, he was in acquisitions. So he went out. Of course, your duties in the Navy are when you're on a sub, because he was on a sub. Your duties are basically everybody cleans. Everybody. Some people take turns cooking, stuff like that. And all the other various Navy stuff that he, for whatever reason, doesn't talk about. But I will get some stories out of him. I swear.
Absolutely.
But one of the things that was his main responsibilities, he was in acquisitions. So whenever they went into port in Singapore and stuff like that, he would go out and the stupid crap that you want when you're out at sea, because you get tired of eating like dried eggs and powdered milk.
So I was going to ask what acquisitions meant. Like, the first thing I think of is American Psycho, mergers and acquisitions. But I don't think there's a lot of that going on in the Navy. So his job was basically when they came into port, he would go to acquire all the stuff the soldier or sailors needed or wanted to just enjoy their life, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of stupid. Like you get real jaded about having this nice comfortable bed when you're not enlisted, and this nice like the comfort that you have when you're not you're out at in different countries and overseas and all that crap. He was one of the people that was in charge of bringing those comforts back. Like a fresh. I could have
really used your father in the initial invasion to Iraq. It would have been really helpful.
Yeah, I was kind of listening to that on the men's podcast. You had mentioned that's one of your biggest things that you're kind of thankful for now is like a hot shower.
Oh, well, so on the invasion, like, the combat was tough, but the worst part by far was the conditions, because we weren't set up yet. I mean, we were some of the first Americans to cross the border from Saudi Arabia in, because we staged in Saudi Arabia while the main force was in Kuwait, and so, like, when we went from south to north, there was nothing. Like, we only had MREs, we only had the bottled water that we could buy, and that was basically it. Like, so any showers or laundry or that we had nothing. It was crazy. So, like, that's what made it tough. Would be like, it'd be 140 to 130 degrees. You're at full battle rattle. You're sleeping on your rucksack, and you're just sweating like crazy. And I would have done anything to have a guy like your dad come around and help us out a little bit. give us something good.
He'd go out and get like a fresh chicken or something like that, and everybody would be like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then they would go back to sleeping in. And I mean, he was part of the crew on the USS Tenosa, right? His sub. And what ended up happening was that was one of the old style subs, even when he was there. So it was kind of old when he was there. So, and my dad is 6 foot, and he was, I think, about 260, 280 or something like that. He's a big boy,
Jesus, big boy, yeah.
But could you imagine him just trying to scooch in one of those little bunk beds?
Oh, that's got to be terrible.
So, and he wasn't the only one either, because he had a bunch of tall guys in his little group that he had, and but the thing that he did mostly was go get food for people and go get, like, underarm deodorant and soap and stuff like that, because back then when he was enlisted, they didn't have such, like, nowadays they have it where you're only allowed to go out a certain amount of time, because
I wasn't in the Navy. I have no idea. Like, I'm assuming that once they land at port, they have X amount of hours or leave or something they can do, but that's as far as my expertise that.
Well, what ended up happening with him, right, is they stayed out for these ridiculously long times,
sure.
Right? And nowadays, because my nephew's in the Navy, they only stay out for like 2-3 weeks, and then they come back. He was the longest he was ever away or at sea, I think, was like some ridiculous amount of time, like 60 or 70 days, right? And they were running low on everything, but they were in a spot they weren't supposed to be, and there was this other Russian sub that was in a spot where they weren't supposed to be, and they were both,
kind of a game of chicken.
Yeah. No, it was more like sit there and wait.
Right.
Now, he did tell me a story about eventually when they both came up for some air, they surfaced. The Russian guys actually sent him over a bottle of vodka.
That's awesome.
Yeah. They were both scared shitless, though. I mean, they were both, and
now the question is, was that a tactic to get everybody drunk so they can come get you? You don't know.
I think when you're back then, it was much simpler times. I think they just wanted to get fucked up and, like, have a little break.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
So I have a similar story where we were actually can't imagine I'd get in trouble for this in any way, but we were actually on guard, and these kids would come up to us, and we're in a guard tower, so they have no access to us. And they just start pointing at us, say, "Hey, whiskey, whiskey, whiskey." We're like, "What? You got whiskey?" And then they would actually throw up these bottles of whiskey, or no, they're not bottles; they were water bottles filled with whiskey, wow. And I'm telling you, the only thing we had to mix it with was powdered Gatorade. We only had it for one night, and wow, it was awful.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely awful.
I could imagine. So powdered Gatorade. Okay. What flavor Gatorade though?
It was either red fruit punch or yellow lemon lime, and the whiskey.
I can't imagine that pair well with whiskey.
It wouldn't really matter because the whiskey that we're talking about is we're not talking about even Jack Daniels would be high quality. This stuff was like jet fuel. It hurt.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
to have any of it. Oh yeah. So we could have mixed it with the world's strongest mixer ever, and it wouldn't matter. It was terrible, but I got the job done.
You know, something that my dad, he got, the experience that he got from the Navy that kind of, shook him to the foundation was he found out that no matter the distance, we're all pretty much the same. Like, people want to go to work, they want to come back, they want to chill with their family, and then do it all over again, Did you have any experiences like that?
No, absolutely. Being in Iraq, a lot of the things that a lot of times, like I said, being on the invasion, we were a lot of the times the first interaction these people have had with Americans. So we really tried to get to know some of the civilians. And I mean, I guess anybody that's seen a Vietnam movie, the idea is also to win hearts and minds. You want to help these people so they can help you. So you're constantly trying to negotiate and have conversations and learn. And there were so many times where I'd have a conversation with a man or a woman or whatever it might be, and they're just normal people. Like, most of them didn't give a crap about ISIS or Bin Laden or American soldiers. They just wanted to go to work. They wanted to learn. They wanted to improve their lives. They didn't want all this stuff. It's just that that small 10% of those Iraqi insurgents, or Middle East insurgents, we'll call them, that gave a bad name to everybody. Iraqi citizens, a lot of them that I met, that I talked to, were great. They'd offer us chai and food. I mean, what we would do a lot of times is called an NAI, a named area of interest, and we would basically approach an Iraqi civilian house, and we'd barter with them and say, hey, we want to look over at a certain area, and your house overlooks that. Can we talk? And would you allow us to set up on your roof? And when they would do that, we'd have conversations with them. I can't tell you how many, families I would talk to, and he's an engineer, she's a teacher, he does this, she does that. And they're just normal families wanting to conduct a normal life and be happy. No different than anywhere else.
Yeah. And I mean, sorry, that's an important lesson.
There. Huh? Sorry, that was a bit of a soapbox there.
No, I mean, that's some of the message that I want to spread with, the podcast, if we can, if anyone's listening that has, doubts about humanity still being alive, because we're in this time right now where everyone's so jaded, and there's so much negativity around that it's such a breath of fresh air to get a story like that or something to know that it's not actually that bad out here. Especially,
to be honest with, I'm sorry,
go ahead.
So I mean, obviously we met through Wayne and the Chaos and Pain. I have my Instagram account, and one of the things that I've been doing a lot since trying to kind of figure myself out a little bit since getting out has been a lot of traveling, a lot of going to different countries. I've been to every state in America, a lot. 13, 14 countries. I've got a Honduras and Japan coming up. And it's one of the things that when you get out there, we're not anywhere near as different as people think. And there are so many people that have helped me in so many different situations and all those different adventures that I would never have made it out without just a random person doing something good.
Yeah.
I did I went to go be a sled dog handler up in Alaska for one winter, and I was actually in the middle of the Yukon in the dead of winter. It was mid-January. I was the only one on the road, and these two people who live in a trailer that basically they take their snowmobile and just clear out some of the gas stations. If they didn't happen to be there and give me for free a full tank of gas because the gas station was closed, I would have been stuck in the middle of the Yukon with no service and nothing else, and we would not be having this conversation. It was just because this random couple I needed some help and they helped me. I honestly don't think I'd even make it. Yeah. And these are the kind, I've have stories on stories on stories of people from Instagram to cyberspace, social media to real life in front of you, people doing things when they don't need to. It's a detriment to themselves, and they just help someone. And in today's news cycle, it's hard to see that nowadays.
Yeah. And, that's such a shame, too, because, just like you were saying, you have a trip to Honduras. That's a coincidence because, Wayne, he had kind of one of those moments, too, where he started to be very thankful of where he's at and kind of again, we might sound like we're on a soapbox, but this bears importance. He had this moment of clarity where he went to Honduras and he saw this dude just sitting there cutting grass with a scythe. You can't buy a scythe in the United States without going to an antique shop.
Yeah, I can't remember.
And
last
this
time
dude was making the most baller living for his family in the area because he'd cut 3 or 4 different lawns, go buy dinner, and he lived like a king.
Mm-hmm.
And you just don't. I know we complain about the Kardashians, and we complain about people on social media, and complain about people spoiling Endgame, which don't worry, I won't do it. But there are much worse things, and I'm not saying that was worse. I'm saying that, that makes me thankful. Even hearing about it makes me thankful for having simple things like running water. And I think my generation specifically, I'm 28 years old. My generation specifically will be the least thankful generation in the entirety of being, I believe. Just because they don't know any different. My mom, she's older. She's actually 78. She was around for the Depression,
Mm-hmm.
This lady that we bought my current residence from, she had literally, I'm not kidding you, Jim, 70 to 80 to 100 different mason jars because she canned.
I believe it. No,
something people,
yeah. When you go through something like that, yeah.
She survived the Great Depression too, and we never really have had to go through in my lifetime famine of any kind, hardship really of any kind except for violence perpetuated by maybe gang violence in L.A. I was around for that. I was around for Compton before all that stuff, and even East Austin used to be really bad when I was growing up because I actually grew up in Austin, Texas.
Oh, okay.
But really other than that, like spotty areas of violence and stuff like that around our country, I can't really say that we've been through any hardship, except, of course, for, 9/11, but that was, and by the way, that was the first time that my dad actually got a thank you for your service when he was wearing a cap out in public. Like his Tenosa cap.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, that was the first time ever he's gotten a thank you for your service.
I believe that.
But, I would like to bring it back around to boot camp real quick. Because everybody that I know of in the military either hated or loved boot camp. So which one were you?
Hated.
Hated? What was your least favorite part, and what was your favorite part?
My least favorite part was all of it. My favorite part when it was over. Like it was just nonstop having someone tell you what to do, which isn't my forte.
Yeah.
Which is it's kind of ironic. I actually, I don't know, maybe this is a success story or overcoming difficulties or whatever you want to call it, but I was actually a terrible soldier for the longest time because I had a real problem with authority. And
Right.
actually, for the first, once I got to my unit in the 82nd, I was actually, they were thinking about kicking me out just because NCOs would tell me to do something and I would be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why? And what ended up actually happening was that once we went to Iraq, and when we went to Iraq, we were so focused on WMDs, right? Remember all that? The chemical warfare.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Nobody even, I mean, as far as I remember, nobody even heard of an IED. Like, that wasn't even a thing. So, I mean, we were rolling around in open door Humvees and nothing was up armor. We'd be rolling around in like MOP gear, which is the anti-chemical weapon stuff. That way you put your gas mask on and coal and, all this nonsense all over you. And I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I totally lost what I was talking about. This is a shot in the head thing. What was I talking about?
You were talking about IEDs. Nobody even thought about IEDs. And you were wearing MOP gear. And whenever you went in, you were worried about weapons of mass destruction.
Oh, that's right. I was talking about how I was going to get kicked out. And so then we got hit with an IED. And I reacted very well. Like, I went out and I did the first aid and there was no hesitation. And that was actually when, like, I kind of started flourishing in my military career, because while they realized that I may have been questioning the authority, I was just trying to learn more and progress myself, understand what was going on, rather than being like a insubordinate jerk. You know what I mean? So once that happened, and once I was able to prove myself in a real life situation, not just training, I actually I did a pretty good job there after that. But
well, at the end of the day, that's what they care about. I mean, especially if you're boots on the ground, they care about you being effective. They don't really necessarily care how you get the job done. Now, I could be talking out my ass.
Well, it's a little bit of both. Like, you could do the job perfectly, but if you're not clean shaven, they'll smoke you for it or make, punish you for it in some way, shape, or... Again, this is training, not combat. But
well, I'd be fucked then. But
yeah, you and me both, buddy.
But no, it's one of those things where so I did cheat a little bit, and I heard your story about you jumping out of the plane for the first time because you're afraid of heights.
Horribly.
Let's talk a little bit about that. So, how exactly did you react when you found out you were going to be jumping from a plane, and how did that go?
Well, so like I said, when I first joined, I knew I wanted to be front lines. It was infantry, and the choice was either going to be a Marine or Army, and I chose Army because there was more options. You can go airborne, air assault. There's all kinds of things.
Right.
And when I was joining, you put me on the third rung of a ladder, and I start shaking. Like, I hate heights that much. So, and I joined when I was 17, and I just decided I'm going to get over this, whether I like it or not. So I joined up to be 11 X-ray, which is airborne infantry. So I went through basic training, OSIT, which is the infantry basic training. And I went to airborne school, which is 3 weeks. You got ground week, tower week, jump week. Ground week, basically, you're just learning how to do PLFs, which are parachute landing falls, and doing little things.
Right.
Second week is tower week, is when they generally put you on the 250-foot tower and they drop you, and then you just learn to land. Thankfully, I didn't have to do that because I would have been scared out of my mind.
Yeah.
Because anytime the winds are too high, they just basically cancel it. So so I'm in my third week of airborne school, and I haven't gone higher than 9 feet. That's it.
Right.
So we're about to go do jump week, and we do 5 jumps in 1 week. If I remember correctly, it's 3 Hollywood, which is no gear at all besides your parachute, one full battle rattle, and then 1 at night. I could be wrong on that, but it's 5 jumps.
That's
and
what you said in the other podcast, so I think you're along the right track.
Okay, good. And I happen to be the door jumper on the very first jump. And so that means that So when you're in the C-130 or C-17, whatever you're in,
Right.
What happens is that once the jump master will actually open the door, do all his checks, so you can actually see out there. And I remember I'm literally the very first person, but I'm still like 10, 15 feet back from the actual door. I can just see the ground moving really fast. And we're at about 800 to 1,000 feet, give or take, plus or minus. And so finally, he says, door jumper, like I can't remember the actual command. And then, so what you do, you take, 4 or 5 steps forward, you execute a right or left turn, and you put your hand on your emergency parachute, and you just stare outside of that door. And you are 4 inches away. Like your face is right there. And all you're waiting for, basically, is for the jump master to, once that green light happens, he takes his hand, his or her hand, and smacks you as hard in the ass as he can and says, go. Her, go. And you just jump. So he did it. Bam, go. My body just froze. My mind was go. But I just didn't go anywhere. Like I was so scared. I didn't even physically move. So finally, I think it's after the second time he said go, he took his left boot and put it as hard as he could on my left ass cheek and kicked me out the door. And that was all. After that, I never needed it again, and it ended up being okay. I made my relationship with Jesus good on the way down, just in case, you never know, and it ended up being okay.
That's exactly the way I learned how to swim.
Yeah.
So, yours is a little bit better than mine, but man, that's crazy. Now, I did want to ask you this. So, for people who are unaware, you said 800 feet.
Yeah.
They don't drop you from really high like in the movies.
I don't know what the altitude is in the movies, but so so when I say there's 3 different kinds, I'm sure there's much more, but these are the basics that I know. There's static line jumping, which is what I did, which is basically when you watch like Band of Brothers, that's what they did. It's the parachute is attached to the plane, and you want to jump at 800 feet because you don't want to be floating very often for a very long time when you're in combat, because you're just a sitting target. So you want to be as low as possible without risking any kind of injury to allow yourself to slow down. The other 2 are halo and hey-ho, which is high altitude low opening and high altitude high opening. That just depends on where you want to deploy your chute. But that's mainly for SEALs and special forces. So when you watched the Navy SEAL movie,
Right.
I can't, one of those SOCON movies. No, like way later, like in the 2000s. I can't remember what it was called, but almost anytime you see him jump like that and there's not a cord on the parachute attached to the plane, that's when they're doing much higher elevation jumping.
Yeah. Well, interesting stuff. Let's move to we're going to come back to your service here in a minute, but let's move to when you got out.
Okay.
So something you've been a very big proponent of is helping people or helping organizations with PTSD.
Sure.
And you've been a very big proponent of mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of guys who get out struggle with that. If there's any listening, do you have a message for them?
Don't give up. I think that would be the best message to... And that's anybody with any mental health issue ever, on any level. To be honest with you, I'm 35. I joined when I was 17, 18. I got out when I was 22, 23. It's I was shot in the head when I was in Iraq. I was in the initial invasion. I've had, I'm rated at 100% by the VA for PTSD and depression and all that. I've definitely had a rough go on a number of levels, and it wasn't until the last 6 months where things started going not positively, because they kind of always have been a little more positive, but it was positive to the point where I could recognize it and I gave myself a little bit of credit. And that was the big thing, is like a lot of times with whatever mental health issue you're dealing with, the person you beat up the most is yourself. whether it's, eating disorders or PTSD or any of it. The person that you destroy the most is yourself. And so I got out when I was 22, and I'd say, like I said, the last 6 months to a year is when my life started coming a little bit together, and I started learning to be a little bit happier. So that took me, over a decade to figure out. So I think that would be the message: is don't quit, don't give up, because it could click in 6 months or 12 years, but you gotta keep going because it will click. You just have to keep trying, and it's hard. It's hard, man. When you're sitting there by yourself with a bottle, and you're crying, or your whatever your trigger is for your mental health, and you're focusing on that, it is really difficult to sit there and realize this is a wave. I'm in the down part right now, and you just need to be able to understand that there will be an upswing, whether it's in a week, a month, or a year. It will get better, and if you just focus on not quitting, go to bed, smoke some weed, get some sleep. If it's that bad, just call it a day, but keep going. Don't quit.
Is it hard for you to talk about that?
Not at all.
That's good. That's good.
I don't know why. I think one of the biggest issues we have with mental health is everyone wants to become aware of it, but nobody wants to talk about what they deal with. Everyone's sad. Everyone can get depressed or this or that. But how do you help? What are you really going through? What's the real origins? And that's the scary part that people have a hard time talking about. And if you're not going to talk about it, maybe I might not get any better. I don't know. But I can talk about it on as many platforms as I can, and maybe somebody else does. And, that makes me feel a little bit better. So who knows?
Yeah. And, like I keep explaining to people is if you're ever wondering what PTSD looks like, right, look at your stereotypical, Western hero. So they're very closed off. They don't talk about their feelings, right? They drink to deal with whatever's coming their way. And then they're very cold. Think of John Wayne in most of his movies, That's kind of what, not dealing with your issues looks like. Not just necessarily PTSD. But, there's plenty, and I will, by the way, link a service down below for those of you dealing with mental health issues.
Please, please do that.
There are plenty of free services, and there's plenty of paid ones, but the free services are born out of a place of actually wanting to help people. That's why I lean more towards them, because free doesn't pay the bills, and if you're not interested in paying the bills, you generally have a dog in this fight.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go back and talk about the big elephant in the room. You went through some hardships in the military, and it earned you a Purple Heart. Can you go over that a little bit?
In what way? Like, you want to talk about when I got shot, or?
Well, what were the events leading up to you getting injured?
It was just an isolated incident. I don't think I was there wasn't a multiple events leading up to it besides combat. But we were just, it was January 15th or 16th. I can't remember. 2005. Oh, wow. Yeah, 5. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine.
And this is the second tour. I was in E4 or E5 at the time as a team leader. And we were going to do a TCP on a bridge, which is a traffic control point. We stop vehicles and we search them for bombs and contraband and things like that. And I was the trail team. I was the last team in the formation, and we were basically just doing a presence patrol, walking around different routes on the way to the TCP. Just, letting civilians know we're here. We're here to protect you. If you see anything, let us know. If something happens, we're here to help. And as we were walking through a T intersection, to our rear, a guy, multiple guys possibly, with an RPK on top of a roof, decided to rain down on the road that we were on. So it was a T intersection, and I guess the best way to look at it would be the opposite of a T if you're looking at it straight in front of you. So the horizontal part was behind us, and the vertical part we were walking down. And so being the trail team, we got hit first, and we basically all just scattered to find cover once the round started coming down range.
Right.
And so in Iraq, there's a lot of in a lot of places there's these huge walls on the side of the roads. Like normally you would have like a mailbox, and then you'd walk into somebody's yard. Instead of that, it's more of like a huge barrier, and then you open the door, and then you go into a little more of a apartment area. So all the rounds coming down were actually the sound was actually getting trapped by the walls, and I'll never forget how loud it was. This is my second tour, so I'm relatively used to being shot at and the sound. For some reason, it was just so loud, and at that point, even you've been in firefights before. You're scared, but you know that they're Iraqis and they can't hit the broadside of a barn. So just be careful.
They're stormtroopers.
They're so bad. Which is even worse. The fact that some guy got me is just awful. I got hit by a stormtrooper, basically. So I don't know what that says about me. But you are absolutely right. I remember that we went to a range. It was a full body silhouette. The guy had a full clip. I think it was 30 rounds with an AK-47. And he didn't hit a damn thing. He may have been 100 meters away. So the fact that some guy with an RPK like 300 meters away got me. Ugh. Lucky bastard. But anyway, so he's shooting, and so I everyone's getting under cover, and I'm kind of like trying to direct a couple people along with the rest of the NCOs. And then right as the last guy gets into cover, and I'm right by the door because I'm holding the door for him, that's when I got hit. I got hit right away. It actually launched me into the wall, but I never actually hit the ground. Like I never took a knee. I never went down. Nothing. And that is a point of pride for me, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So then I finally walk through the door, and I look at my buddy Hinkle, who was the squad leader, and I take off and he looks at me. He goes, "I think you just got shot in the head." And I was like, "Ah!" I just look at him, and that's why I end up going to my buddy, who he's a private. And so when you train people to do medical care under combat duress, the most important thing is to stay calm and to let the victim or patient, whatever you want to call them, let them know that it's okay. So I look at him, I say, "Hey man, I think I got shot in the head," and I took my helmet off. And that's because obviously the helmet was heavy, so it was kind of putting pressure on the wound. So the second I took it off, like the blood just came roaring down. And the private looked at me, and as soon as I said, "Hey, look at it," and I took my helmet off, his eyes went the size of dinner plates. And he was just like, "Oh my God." I looked at him, I was like, "Hey, you're supposed to keep me fucking calm." And then all of a sudden, it was the weirdest thing, man. I didn't get sad or scared. I got really angry. I thought to myself, this guy wants to hurt me. He wants me to never hug my mother again. And somehow, in all of that, the thought process became personal. This guy made it personal.
Right. And
I put my helmet back on, and me and the rest of the guys, we went right at the house. We cleared it. We eliminated everything we needed to. And then at the end of everything, I remember sitting on top of the roof where the guy was, blood all over my face. I'm looking out over the horizon of the city in Mosul. Again, I'm on the roof at that T intersection.
Right.
And my vision starts to tunnel. And I'm like, this is it. This is it. I accepted it because I thought I was dead right there. And then I woke up at a cache, which is like a newer MASH, basically, and in Mosul, and I'd survived somehow. Wow.
See, yeah, so I want to complain about my gallbladder being taken, and now this makes it so much less significant.
Oh, don't say that, man. It's two different things, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. But no, so you lost consciousness and you woke up. Now, did you have...
At the end of the firefight, when everything was done, then I lost consciousness. Not at any point in time during the fight.
Right.
Okay.
So after the firefight was done and you passed out, and you woke up. So what was the atmosphere in the room like? Were you conscious enough to, like, was anything affected right off the bat?
No, not really.
Okay.
So after I got shot, they took me to the cache. I was mildly like conscious a little bit. Like I remember there being a nurse helping me, asking me questions. I remember my buddy Jablonski asking me questions on the drive there, like a little thing here and there, mostly just yelling at me to stay awake. Actually, it wasn't a lot of questions. I don't know if there was. It's not like I woke up in a hospital bed.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I guess I don't want to. I guess I didn't lose consciousness to the point where like I was just gone for a couple hours and woke up. I was kind of in and out. So I was still fairly conscious of like what was going on. And I had a few small procedures to get the shrapnel removed. The wound ended up not being as bad as it ended up being later because they thought it was a little bit more superficial than it was. And then, so a lot of the symptoms that I had to deal with didn't arrive until later in terms of the physical manifestations.
Right.
Like I have seizures and blackouts, and I didn't really have that until, I mean, like 3 or 4 months later when I was at West Point.
Right.
I was an instructor for a summer, and that was the first real physical symptom that I had. But up until after that, I never actually left country. I had a few cosmetic surgeries done, and then I basically convinced the sergeant major to let me back. And about 6 weeks after I got shot, maybe 4 to 6 weeks, I was back running missions.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something that I was listening to the other podcast. You got right back up on the saddle. I mean, it was kind of shocking to me. So
I just had my friends out there getting shot at, and I didn't feel right sitting back, especially when I felt like I was, like my facilities were all there. Like I could think like clearly, and you know, it wasn't like I got my leg blown off, or I got something that wasn't allowing me to physically do my job. So I just felt like I could have kept going. It wasn't until later that some of the issues ended up coming up, but I just felt these are my friends, these are my dudes. I'm not leaving. You're gonna make me anyway.
Well, so what caused you to? Did you just not re-enlist, or what happened there?
So after West Point, so actually, as quick as I can make it. So like I said, at the beginning of my career, I was actually not a very good soldier, and then the Iraq tours happened, and I got a little more leeway, and I ended up really flourishing in it. I ended up making E5 pretty quick. I went through PLDC. They were going to make me promotable, but I kept having these physical issues once West Point happened. I was actually at West Point, New York. I was an instructor for a summer, and we were doing mountain training with the cadets, the military operations and urban terrain, like clearing rooms, buildings, that kind of stuff. And I remember being outside the building, and I was yelling at one of those damn cadets to do something, and I just looked down, and my hands were shaking, and I couldn't figure out why, and I lost consciousness. I woke up in the emergency room with the major sitting right there, and he was trying to tell me to go back to Fort Bragg, but I told him the same thing I told the sergeant major in Iraq. No,
right.
I'm staying. But
so let's shoot over to now. So you've visited quite a few states, and we'll probably revisit this in later. But you visited quite a few states. I was just wondering what state you like the most, right, in the United States, and why.
Okay, so what do you mean, like to live, to visit? Give me some parameters here.
Either or, I mean, just because I like a park doesn't mean I want to go live there.
True. So let's go. So if you're driving through an area, so I've driven. I went on about a 37,000 mile road trip, and I covered every single state in America except for Hawaii, but I've already been there. And I've covered all of the Canadian territories except for the 3 in the upper right hand, in the northeast corner. So I haven't hit those yet. Driving wise, British Columbia is one of the most beautiful areas I've ever seen in my entire life. It was amazing. And you can just drive from Seattle north, and you don't even have to get off the highway. I would literally just pull over, and you see some of the most beautiful, serene nature you have ever seen.
Yeah.
Within the states, and I'm going to go with the lower, because obviously Alaska pretty much kills everything in terms of nature.
Except for snow. It flourishes up there.
It's beautiful up there, though. It's absolutely awesome. No, I meant
yeah.
in terms of it kills the nature in terms of like every other state. Like it's hard to beat. It's hard to beat the wildlife in Alaska compared to any place else. Utah, the mountains are incredible. But in terms of living, obviously there's political things that people like and dislike about this area, and it is expensive. But I love California. Go a little bit north, you've got all 4 seasons. A little bit south, you're practically tropical. The best beaches and mountains in the world. I don't know. I really like it here. So I would say California.
So much to do.
There really is. Like, so I live in Acton. I'm about an hour north of LA. So I'm an hour and a half away from some of the best nightlife in the world. I don't go out at night like that, but I could. You know, like I got some of the best beaches in the world near me. I've got the national parks, the redwoods. Crater Lake is right in Oregon. The Joshua Tree. No, that's in California. It's in California or Arizona. I mean, there's so many different national parks, cities, and areas that you can explore here. It would be tough for me to say that I would prefer someplace else than here.
Yeah. And talk about the food. I mean, oh my gosh. California's become a foodie heaven.
Absolutely.
You know? Especially if you like the Latin flavor.
Oh, yeah.
But what is your favorite country that you visited? So
America.
Okay.
But so I've done so my traveling is mostly Europe. Obviously I've done the Middle East, but in terms of, so I'm doing Honduras this summer, but that's actually my buddy Jay. It's called Warfighter Scuba. It's actually a combat vet PTSD retreat for a week where you go scuba diving in Honduras. And I'm actually doing that June 8th to the 15th. So I need to reserve a little bit of judgment for that. But if I were to visit another country again, it would be Norway. It was amazing.
You're not the first person I've heard that from.
Also, the fjords are incredible. Like I drove from the northernmost city to the southernmost. The national parks, the road, everything about it is amazing.
Well, a place that I want to visit is New Zealand, just because The Lord of the Rings were filmed there, and I am a gigantic nerd. But no, awesome. You're not the.
Yeah, I played semi-pro rugby for a little bit, so I ended up. I know a number of Kiwis, and I've never made it out to New Zealand. New Zealand and Australia are definitely on the list. Those places look beautiful.
Yeah, but man, you got like a 12-hour flight to Australia. I mean, that's the only thing keeping me there. I mean, you can't. I mean, that's the best way to do it, right? Like the sure. Boat route doesn't make any sense, but
no. Well, unless you don't have a job and you just want to, enjoy it.
Nah. But fast.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Probably LAX is going to be the best way to get there in terms of cheap.
Right.
And but there's so much to do there in New Zealand. You got in Australia, between the Great Barrier Reef and Perth and all the different areas. Oh, if you need a travel buddy, you just let me know. I'll go.
Hey, yeah, I might take you up on that. But let's go over into these last series of questions, and then I will let you get back to your wonderful doggos. Which, by the way, top tier Instagram. I absolutely love watching all the dogs and stuff. In fact,
they're great, wife, right?
Oh yeah, you mentioned you worked in a rescue, right?
Yep.
In a sanctuary.
Yeah. Well, what's nice about this, every single dog we have here is an aggressive euthanasia type of dog. So these are the dogs that like rescues can't handle, different owners can't handle, or they've actually had aggressive pasts and they've bitten someone in some way, shape, or form. And so now our job, they're basically the worst of the worst in terms of aggression. Now, when I say that, I want to make it very clear. They're that way because of human beings. They were beaten into submission. They were tortured and starved. Like these are dog fighter dogs that are in rings. We have a dog that was from Tijuana. From her shoulder blades to her hind legs was all ticks. I mean, she was close to being actually have no blood. We have Korea meat market dogs. We've got a feral dog from Ohio. We have dogs from all over the place, and every single one of them are like this because of a human being. So when I say that they're aggressive or they have this, that, or the other, it's not because of them. It's because of how they were trained and beaten into this kind of mind frame. But that's what we do, is we try and take what those people did to them and reverse it, do a little bit of therapy, rewire it, maybe have a Goodwill Hunting moment where, it's not your fault. And then hopefully we get them into a home, a nice, loving home that will appreciate what they've been through. And the best part about this is they're all like me. They all have PTSD. They all have issues, and I'm here to help them out and help them find homes and happiness. And I don't know if there's a better job for me out there.
That is absolutely perfect. Is there somewhere that people can go to see if it would be a right fit for them? Like if they wanted to adopt?
That'd be great. So I have my Instagram, which is my name, just Jim.
I'll link it in the description.
Yeah, thanks. And then if you want my boss, Stephen Baldwin, I can message you. He posts a lot because it's just me and him basically. And so he has his dogs and I have mine on the same property. So we're both constantly posting dogs, and they're all available for adoption given the right environment. And there is almost no charge, if any, because we just want to get these guys a good home. If you don't live near California, I'd prefer if you were on the west side of the Mississippi. But if you're a perfect home, we will find a way to get this dog to you. They all deserve homes. They all deserve to be happy. And so do you. And if we can find a way to make that happen with this dog, I'll drive out there to you. And you don't have to pay for it. I will.
Something I would also like to point out too is some of the dogs that he's got because of certain laws in certain areas. I mean, you could have a person try to, for example, a female getting sexually assaulted, and this dog goes and bites it. That dog is now labeled as dangerous in certain places. I've actually heard stories about that.
There's actually a number of those things where you end up finding the situation the dog was in and why he bit someone, and you kind of think, yeah, I probably would have bit you too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's multiple instances where like, well, the dog wasn't getting out of the kennel. He was sitting there for 6 months. No one talked to him or did anything. And you finally brought him out and he didn't want to go back in. Yeah. It's not a shock. So
what has been your favorite part of working for the rescue, for the sanctuary?
Creating a bond with them easily. I can't say that I interact with human beings very well. So when I'm able to find that dog that is in a kennel, is brought to me in a kennel, or I go to them in a kennel, and they look like they're going to eat everyone's face off. Like they look mean and aggressive, but then you sit there with them and you chuck hot dogs at them. You chuck treats at them. You constantly let them know that every time you see me, it's a positive thing. And after days or weeks or months or sometimes years, to see them eventually be like, hey, you know what? That guy's not that bad. Maybe I won't bite him. Just to see that turn is amazing. It really is.
You know what my favorite part of it is because we got two dogs, right? We got a lab and terrier mix. I absolutely love terriers. And we have a lab and plot hound mix, right? So the absolute favorite part of me owning a dog is teaching them new things and then seeing that exact moment where they get it, right?
They get that right. That light bulb hits, right?
Yeah, it's like a lightning strike, and then they do it again and again just to make the owner happy. And there's nothing in this world that can replace that for me.
I have a dog, Rico, who one of the big not a big issues with him is that like when he wants to go back in the kennel, he gets a little bit feisty because he doesn't want to go. So I've actually kind of worked with him, and I now have created a positive situation that every time that he needs to go back into his kennel, I grab a big thing of treats. As soon as he sees those treats, he goes right into the kennel.
Yeah.
I don't have to fight with him. There's no argument. There's no anything. He's like, hell yeah, I'm getting treats. I'm going in there. And that's what I mean is that we're able to rewire some of these dogs in the same way you are. And once that hits, that lightning bolt, that bulb, it's awesome to see it. Because you can see in their eyes, they're like, hey, wait a minute. I don't need to do this anymore. I can be happy and get treats. Bam. And it's beautiful.
And, an advantage of that, too, is you're actually saving a dog's life if you end up adopting one of these. Sometimes these dogs will get into the wrong home, and then the same situation plays out, and then,
absolutely,
they end up getting that negative reinforcement or that negative behavior back. And if you are looking for a rescue, I would highly suggest going with one of Jim's dogs. They are absolutely Instagram worthy. I watch those videos all the time. Please keep putting them out. Also, guys, one last question, and we will stop talking your ear off. So, I know you're a Mortal Kombat fan.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is going
This
to sound...
is a challenge.
This is going to sound weird, okay? If you had to be one character in the Mortal Kombat universe, which one would you be and why?
Ooh, dude, that's good. Are there any parameters to this? Am I allowed to be a god? Am I allowed to be a villain? Or is it just the playable characters that everyone knows and loves kind of thing?
Either or.
I'm sorry if I just nerded out on you. I apologize.
The only caveat is you have to explain your reasonings behind it, and you have to be willing to fully accept the backstory, because I don't know if you know this about Mortal Kombat, but they got some fucked up things that happened to them. That
is very true. Let's see, who would I be? You know, I think I'd have to go Garrus in the new Mortal Kombat. He can never. So we're talking about nerd things, and I'm a big comic book guy. And Doomsday in the DC universe, the Superman versus the death of Superman. Doomsday is one of my favorite villains of all time. And one of his abilities, or whatever you want to call it, is that he can never die the same way twice. If you drown him, he will die, he will come back to life, and you can never drown him again.
Right.
And that's exactly what Garrus is. Once you kill him in a certain way, he can never die the same way again. And besides the aspect of controlling time, I think that's a really cool backstory.
You know, also, just
but you have to answer the same question, sir.
Okay, mine's actually pretty simple. Johnny Cage doesn't really have much of a backstory. He's kind of a pretty boy movie star. Nothing bad has really happened to him, and he just kind of, I'm a movie star, I'm gonna roll with it. Like that's kind of my personality.
That's awesome.
All right, let's just go. And
you get to get married to Sonya Blade. That's not terrible.
Exactly, and then her offspring gets to kill her mom. But anyway,
right?
Spoilers.
What? Wow, yeah, you totally killed the spoiler, bro. Come on.
Which, by the way, if my mom took out a turret and blasted me in the face to train me, I would probably want to kill her too.
You know what's funny is I was watching an interview with Ed Boon, who's the creator of Mortal Kombat.
Oh, killer!
They actually. I always found it, one of the funny things is that we watch these like X-rays or like some of the moves are like, yeah, you'd be dead. You can't just get stabbed in the eye and come back. Apparently, one of the reasons they do that is actually to encourage, to de-incentivize people from like mimicking the game, because it's so crazy you can't mimic it.
Right.
Because you remember back in the day, like people would say like video games caused violence.
Yeah, bullshit.
Like
but yeah,
Duke Nukem and Doom, and like people were so like nervous about that. They actually took that a little bit to heart, but they went the opposite. They went so extreme that it's not feasible. You can't mimic it. So I thought that was pretty an interesting point of an interesting solution to a problem that people had back then.
Yeah. Not only that, but they also did a similar thing with Blitz the League. That I don't know if you remember that.
Of course.
It was a NFL game for those of you who do not play video games, aka interactive media. Those who do not play video games might not know this, but Blitz the League was a famous video game, basically famous for players in the game being able to break their shit, and then you being able to juice them, bandage them back up, or just send them on their way playing still. And they actually did that in order to spread awareness of CTE and the dangers of football. So, pretty cool. But I think we'll end it there. We might get into some more nerdum in another episode if you're wanting to come back on. Yes, no?
Oh, absolutely. Especially you want to talk nerd stuff. Comics, Endgame, Mortal Kombat. Let's get weird. I'm down.
Ooh, buddy. Well, you know the drill, guys. If you like this video, go ahead and like it. If you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe to it right now. If you have not followed Jim, what are you doing with your life? Also, we are probably going to be on SoundCloud at some point. We are probably going to be on Apple Podcast at some point. We are probably going to be on Stitcher at some point, and Podbean at some point. So, stay tuned for those announcements here coming soon. Anyway, this is your host, Bryce Allen, and I will see you in the next one. That almost sounded professional. Peace.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women. That is good.
Too many thoughts on my mind, I can't sleep at night, so I just keep writing. I don't need no help, I don't need opinions, so don't waste my time then. I just been living online, my city don't show me no love, and that's fine. Fuck local radio stations, I got more plays than all of these rappers combined. I'm going again, I've been going in, I'm fed up with so many things, I gotta just let it all out. I'm talking about the shit they've been talking about, telling me I should do this, telling me I should do that, telling me things about rap, talking the truth and that stab in my back, that will knock me off track. No, too many things have been building, been hard to deal with, I just been drinking. Remember my moves in the past, I'm wondering what was I thinking. Lately I'm living in fear, wondering what if the end is so near. All of this shit going on, the shootings are strong, one shot to the head and I'm gone. I'm losing control but I can't let it go, cause I'm trying to get more. And I've been in the moment, I've been in the zone, and I'm moving alone. I don't pick up the phone when my family call, I've been doing it wrong and I don't know what's happening. Trying to get what I just been imagining, getting close and I just been examining all of the fake shit the game has been packaging.
Power pleases you, Crown. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then the hell with you.
I come from a town where most of the people are so close-minded. They go into school and they work in a job, but they don't even like it. I won't be put in a box, nobody telling me what I should rock, nobody telling me what I should drop, cause I do what I want and just know I don't stop. Recording till 4 in the morning, they snoring, I'm pouring my soul into every story. I'm writing, producing, I mix it, I master, I'm building my craft and I'm not looking back. I've been going doing things I wanna do when I want to. Everybody wanna get away, but they not do. Everybody wanna copy you, but they not you. Everybody wanna be cool, but they not new. Whoa, look how I go, gonna be a dentist, I still got the flow. Never gonna lose cause I'm still doing both. Never gonna lose cause I've been on the road. Come to your state and I'm killing the show. Know that I'm young and I still gotta grow. Know that I'm working the most, know I'm never gonna choke, and I'm looking back down on the people below.
I've been keeping real, I've been doing what I feel, I've been out here trying to kill.